Thank you, Mike. I appreciate your leading our singing. Appreciate the good singing uh, that you've provided this morning. It's beautiful, encouraging, and we appreciate it. If you're visiting with us this morning, thank you so much for being here. We are grateful for your presence and hope you'll come back, of course, to be with us at every opportunity. I do want to take or make special notice of one person this morning, and that's Mr. Eli Sebastian. Is sitting back there, I believe, in his mother's arms, and he is certainly a beautiful young man, and we're thankful that he looks like his mother. Uh, we love you, Thomas, but no. He is one pretty boy, and we're so happy he's able to join us this morning, and we couldn't be more happy or more proud for you, Thomas and Alicia. We're so happy. I did mention to you in the adult class, and those of you who were not in here, Sister Carla Monroe's father passed away yesterday. I believe it was yesterday morning or Friday evening. Okay. The memorial service is going to be 3 o'clock Tuesday afternoon at the First Free Will Baptist Church in Kinston. And I think they're going to have, they're going to have a visitation either before or after it. You can choose which one you want to attend, I guess. No, I'll try to find out for you. But it is, the funeral home is the Howard Carter Funeral Home in Kinston. And we'll make this available via announcement. I'll try to write it out and post it on the bulletin board this afternoon tonight so you can have it for those of you who don't use Facebook or anything of that nature. Good to have each of you this morning. Several years ago, Mel Powers, one of our elders, invited me to go with him from Kinston down to Newbern. And we were going to fly a helicopter from Kinston down there and watch, I don't know if it was the Coast Guard, but anyway, a military group board a ship as if it had been taken over by pirates, and then watch a robot find and defuse a bomb. And I was so excited, number one, about the helicopter ride, and then about seeing those other things. Well, we got to Kinston to board the helicopter. The helicopter was there. The pilots were there. We were there. But the permission slip for us to ride in that helicopter was locked in some officer's office. And he was not there for the pilots to get the permission slip. Now imagine that, Dwayne, an officer doing that. So we could not ride on the helicopter. The only choice we had was to drive to Newbern and get there by the time that the thing started, and that was an impossibility, or so I thought. I think the wheels on that car might have touched the ground once or twice. Anyway, we made it just in time, and we literally had to run from the car to catch the boat so we could view everything. But we made it, and on the way back, Mel commented, he said, "Lennie, on the way down here, you were mighty quiet." He said, "You weren't talking very much." And I said, "Well, Mel, I was talking. It just wasn't to you." In 1985, fellow by the name of John Howard set out to set a new land speed record on a bicycle. And his bike was specially made, of course, and one turn of the pedals, just one turn, would propel the bike 110 feet. Something about the gear ratio, I don't understand it. But anyway, that's what he did. That's what he was going to do. He was going to set out to make a new speed record on land for a bicycle. His top speed, I think, was faster than what Mel was driving. 152 miles per hour on a bicycle. And we're not talking downhill, just flat desert. Most of us probably have not been on a bicycle going 152 miles per hour. I don't want to be on a bicycle or a car or any land vehicle going 152 miles per hour. But get this. Last year, a young lady by the name of Denise Mueller set a new world record, 184 miles per hour on a bicycle. Now, I want you to know that a Boeing 747, its takeoff speed, it is 184 miles per hour. But really, that's not the point. My point is this. I don't know, but I would almost guarantee that not a person in here thought that the land speed record on a bicycle would be 152 miles an hour, much less 184 miles per hour. Now, you may have. I had no clue. I was thinking, man, if they got 50, they're doing great. What is important is this. Most of us in our day-to-day living have no idea what is possible physically, intellectually, emotionally, or organizationally. We have no clue. What we end up doing is underestimating our individual abilities, and collectively we underestimate the potential, the possibilities of other people. Now, based on our experience, and that's what we know, most of us would have never guessed that a bicycle could go 184 miles per hour. It would have been much slower than that for me. Understanding that, what that means is that typically our experience, our frame of reference, at times works against us. It limits us. It limits what we think we can do individually or collectively. We set a limit on the things that we think that we can do. And that may be why Albert Einstein made the statement that imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited by what we know or to all that we know and understand, while imagination embraces the entire world and all there will ever be to know and to understand. Out of all the people who have made New Year's resolutions this year, only 8% of you, I'm not keeping the first one, will keep them. In fact, if you made New Year's resolutions, depending on what it is, most likely at January the 5th, you've already broken it. I don't know, but typically that's what happens. And what that means is, the bottom line is that the majority of us not only don't like change, we resist change. We resist it. And if change does take place, it better be a good kind of change. Change that we approve of, change that makes our life easier, makes our life better, the kind of change that we want. And we like consistency in the things that we do. But you and I both know that life is not consistent. Life is full of ups and downs. There are bumps and bruises. There are shelves that get in our way. Right, Kevin? And there are other things that harm us. If there's something to fall on, I'm your man. If there's something to trip over, I'm your man. If there's something to be cut on us physically, I'm your man. If it can happen, I'm your man. And I'll do it. Price is going up, but I'll do it. I mean, that's just the way it is. But the only true consistency in life is God. It's not you. It's not me. It's not life. The only true consistency is God. That's why James would write in James chapter 1, verse 17, for every good thing given and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights. Now notice this, with whom there is no variation or change, there is no shifting shadow, there's no turning of shadow. You know, if you and I, a sundial. If you were to look at a sundial, that sundial stands perfectly still, but as the day goes on, the shadow of it moves according to the movement of the sun. That's not even true with God. He doesn't change. He is consistent, but you and I need change. And regardless of what you and I might think about ourselves, none of us have arrived yet. None of us are perfect. None of us have joined the ranks of those who can proclaim themselves, follow me, I'm the perfect example. Have you ever read in your Bible, the blind leading the blind? What happens to both of them? They fall into a ditch. As a child of God, you and I are in a life-changing process. Or at least we should be. And the reason that we tend to resist change is because we want to be at the goal right now. If we don't dislike the idea of being a Christian, but I want to be the mature, perfect Christian right now. I don't want to have to go through the work. I don't want to have to go through the discipline. I don't want to have to go through the journey to get there. Listen, if positive change required no work or effort, a lot of us would have already changed some things about us that need to be changed, right? I mean, if it required no work or effort. Hey, look, if I'd be a lot smarter if it were easy. And I would speak 6 different languages if it required no effort. If I didn't have to study, if I didn't have to spend time, I'd do it. I'd do it. Spiritually, that mindset leads to complacency. I mean, I want to be there right now. I don't want to have to put the work. I don't want to have to read the Bible. I don't want to have to study the Bible. I don't want to have to put into practice the things. I want to be there right now. I want to be perfect right now. I don't want to change. I want it to be right now. Complacency. We lower our expectations and we've become satisfied with the status quo. What happens when a person finds themselves in physical decline or health? The blood test comes back that your cholesterol is off the charts. Or you go to the doctor and they do a stress test and find out that you've got some heart disease or some kind of damage. I don't think he would mind, because he and I have talked about it, and I know he's talked to some of you about it. Those of you who have been in contact with Greg and Monroe over the last few days. Greg's he's made up his mind. There's some things about his life he's got to change. I mean, if he wants to keep living. And I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that Greg's all by himself. Because I know that what happened to Greg has hit me. I know it's hit some of you as well. Because we've talked about it. You know, we're going to try to eat a little healthier. We're going to try to get a little bit more exercise. We're going to, do things better to help our bodies. And see, all that teaches us is that typically what we must do is to come to a point in our lives when we are faced with the inevitable that we better make a decision, a hard decision to change, or we're going to suffer the consequences. Spiritually speaking, we have to come to the same point. We have to come to a point in our lives where we're willing to understand that we have to change. There's a point in our lives when we must change. And that change is imperative to our loving God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength. Oh, you've been there. I know you have. You remember the sin that you committed, and you were just so ashamed and embarrassed and upset and maybe even angry at yourself. I can't believe I was so stupid to do that. And you've determined at that point, I will never, ever do that again. And hopefully and prayerfully we haven't. But there comes a time, and at some point, we've got to make a decision that something has got to change. And by the way, Pam Monroe said, and if all of you don't do it, talking about us men, she said, I'm going to whoop every one of you. I think she might do it. Sadly, we wait until we are in the worst spiritual place ever before we come face to face with the reality that we need to change. Why is it that we have to learn lessons the hard way? Why is it that your parents grew up, and you parents and grandparents have done the same? You teach your children, don't touch that red hot eye on the stove. And you tell them why. Any of you ever touched it? See that little scar right there? No, I'm just kidding. But no, we try it, don't we? We try the hard thing. We've got to go the hard way. We've got to learn the hard way. And so it is in our text this morning. And Jesus said to them, a man had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the share of the estate that falls to me. So he divided his wealth among them. And not many days later, the younger son gathered everything together and went on a journey into a distant country, and there he squandered his estate with loose living. Look, we've read that parable 100 times, if not 1,000 or plus times, and we understand the issue that is at the root of this problem. This son wasted his inheritance, his portion of it, in living a sinful life. And I would say amen I agree with that 100%. But there are also some things that this young man is saying that the text doesn't record for us. In Jewish culture, The son, when he said to his father, "Father, give me the share of the estate that falls to me," he's telling his father that he no longer values the home that his father has provided for him. He doesn't value the clothes. He doesn't value the food. He doesn't value the things that he grew up with. And actually, he's saying that I don't value you as a father. I don't like the way that I have to live here at home. I want to live my life in the way that I want to live it. So just give me my money as if you were dead. And he's actually telling his father, I wish you were dead. And let me live my life. Because my life is more important than what you want from me. Because with you, my life is going nowhere. I want to live my life my way. And look, we know what happened to this young man. If he had a desire, he satisfied it. If he wanted something, he bought it. If he had a lust for something, he provided it. Until the money was gone. Now, when he had spent everything that he had, a severe famine occurred in that country, and he began to be impoverished. That really doesn't describe the pitiable condition this young man. He had nothing. Nothing. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, and the citizen sent him into his field to feed swine, to feed the pigs. And he would have gladly filled his stomach with the pods. That's a real nice word for slop. That the swine were eating and no one was giving anything to him. Listen, life happened to this young man. Life happened. Money was gone. There was no one to help him. No one was giving to him. No one took him in. No one was providing for him. He had no friends. He had no family. He had absolutely nothing. Nothing. And the one thing that he felt like gave his life worth was now gone. And that was his money. That was the ability to do what he wanted to do when he wanted to do it. And now that's gone. And as a Jew, not only feeding pigs, but needing to eat the slop that the pigs ate, he felt his life was worthless. Oh, I know the text said he would have gladly filled, no, he gladly filled his stomach with what they ate. How did this young man find himself in such a situation? He no longer valued what his father gave him growing up. It's about me. The lifestyle, the rules, the chores, nothing. He valued nothing that his father gave him except the money that his father graciously gave him, and now that's gone. In case you are unaware of this or don't know this, the father in this parable is God. Okay? The parable is God. We are the son, or in your case maybe the daughter. So the lifestyles, the rules, the chores, nothing except the money his father gave him, and that's gone. His way of life is worthless, and he saw himself as a worthless human being, eating pig slop. He was trying to prove his worth in the world by living his way. His way. And look, we've all been there to varying degrees. And while we've been there, maybe you find yourself right in that spot now. And if that's where we are, I want you to understand that the reason that we are in that spot is because we try to live life by our rules, by our wants, by our decisions instead of the Father's will. And it always ends up in the same place the son finds himself, eating the slop of pigs. Oh, preacher, I don't know what you're talking about. That's not me. No. Well, maybe not. Maybe it isn't. But is it possible that we've ever said to ourselves, well, look, I'm going to go to church, because that's what gets me to heaven. At least that's what we think. I'm going to church, but I'm still going to live life by my standards and what I want and by my desires. I'm going to do what I want to do with my time. I'm going to do what I want to do with my money. I'm going to do what I want to do with my abilities that I have. Isn't that exactly what the son told the father? Exactly. I don't trust your plan for my life. My plan is going to work a whole lot easier for me. I'm going to be able to achieve things that you never even dreamed it possible. I don't want to live by your rules. I want to live by your commandments. I want to live life on my terms. But isn't that exactly what we say when we convince ourselves that we don't need to grow and mature and change spiritually? I've arrived. I'm living a great life. I don't need to be an active Christian. I don't need to change my relationship with God. I just want to stay exactly where I am. I don't need to come to Bible classes. That's crazy. I don't want to put forth the extra effort to let my light shine in this world. God, what I want you to understand is that what I want is more valuable than what you want. Another way of saying that is, God, I'm more valuable than you. It's exactly what we say when we display that attitude. You have arrived. Listen, we've reached the point. Man, I don't need God. I want my freedom more than the life that you want me to live, God. I want to live life by my terms, by my rules, by my standards instead of yours. But when he came to his senses, can you read in between the lines? But when he came to his senses, this boy lost his mind. He's living like a crazy man, foolish man. But he came to his senses. And he said to himself, how many of my father's hired men have more than enough bread, but I'm dying here with hunger. Here's what I'm going to do. I've come to my sense. I'm going to get up, and I'm going to go to my father, and I'm going to say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven, and I've sinned in your sight. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me as one of your hired men. Do you know why the father interrupted his son's confession and apology? Remember, that's what he did, right? You know, he had rehearsed this, no doubt, every step home. And when he saw his father, he began to tell his father all these things that he had just rehearsed. But his father interrupted him. You know why his father interrupted him? Because he is a son. He's not a servant. Yes, he had sinned. Yes, he had said and done some terrible things to his own father. But he was a son. And look, don't you think for a minute that the father didn't understand and know completely well how this was going to end. He knew that his son was going to end up in a train wreck. And he knew that. He knew that when he gave his son his money and when that son left. But this son came to the point in his life where he realized something's got to change. And he made that change. He came to his senses. He realized his father's worth. And the fact that he was just unworthy. He was unworthy. I'm no longer worthy to be called a son, but a slave. But his father would hear absolutely nothing of it. He was his son. The son no longer wanted to live life on his terms, but now he was wanting to live life on his father's terms. You see, in the beginning of this thing, he had forgotten his father's worth. But he came to a point that he knew he had to change. And he did change. He realized his father's worth and just how unworthy he really was. What makes us valuable? Not the kind of car we drive, the kind of clothes we wear, the house we live in, or anything else. The amount of money in your bank account, no. What makes us valuable is our Father. And if we're smart, we know just how unworthy we are. But because He is our Father, we're worthy in His sight. Have you come to that point in your life that you know something has got to change? Don't wait until the doctor says you've got to have bypass surgery. Don't wait until the doctor tells you you've got diabetes. No, we want to be on that to begin with. We want to eat and live right and exercise and avoid those things. But more so than that, have you come to the point in your life when you realize just how valuable the Father is and how immense His love is for you? If you're not a child of God and you realize just how valuable the Father is, we want you to respond to the Lord's invitation this morning. Mike's going to come and lead us in a song, and we're going to sing that song together. And in singing that song, we are encouraging you to respond and put on in obedience to the gospel through faith and repentance and confession and being immersed in water. Put on the Father's shoes and a ring on your hand and robe. Kill the fatted calf because this my son or my daughter has come home. My brother, my sister, if you're at that point, you realize that the life that you now live has reached the point of complacency. You need to change that. And realize the value of doing what the Father said and becoming active in this church family and honoring God. We want to help you. Won't you come as together we stand and sing?